Hey, it's Alex from Android Central. Today we're taking a look at the Sony Xperia Z1 Compact and comparing it to the full-sized Z1. Both these devices are basically flagship level phones from Sony. With the Compact you're getting all the features of the larger phone in a much smaller footprint. First up, the most obvious difference is the size. The Z1 has a 5-inch 1080p display and some sizable bezels on the top and bottom, making it big even for a large phone. The Z1 Compact has the same blocky proportions but switches down to a 4.3-inch 720p screen. Lower resolution, but at 340-ish pixels per inch, we're not going to complain about that. Actually, the quality of the display on the Compact is noticeably better than the Z1, especially when it comes to viewing angles. There's none of the washout at far angles that we come to expect from Sony phones, and I'd probably say it's the best screen on any Sony device to date. Moving around the chassis, the design is mostly the same with just a few exceptions. The SIM tray is moved to the left edge, and the design overall is a bit thicker, 9.5mm on the Compact versus 8.5 on the Z1. You've got magnetic charging ports on the left side, and both phones are of course waterproof provided you have these plastic ports closed. So you get the idea, basically the same phone in a smaller footprint. That extends to most of the internal hardware too. Same Snapdragon 800 CPU with 2GB of RAM and 16GB of storage with an SD card slot. There's really no difference in terms of performance, both are still very fast, and you might even squeeze a little bit more performance out of the Compact in games because of its lower resolution. The entire software experience is virtually identical. The Z1 was recently upgraded to Android 4.3 in many countries, and the Z1 Compact runs it out of the box. Sony's UI is still pretty minimalist. You've got apps preloaded for Sony's content ecosystems. You do get some preloaded third-party apps, but nothing you can't uninstall. So it's the same software and UI on a smaller screen, including Sony's excellent power-saving options, which you can use to extend the Compact's already impressive battery life. There's a 2600 mAh battery inside the Compact, less than the 3000 of the Z1, but with a smaller screen to power, the battery goes a long way. The two phones share the same camera hardware and software too. There's a 20.7MP exmor RS sensor behind a Sony G lens that takes oversampled shots at 8MP by default, and that gives you a little leeway for zooming in, as well as delivering clearer shots when you're zoomed out. The Sony camera app supports a range of plugins including panorama, AR effects, and burst modes. As you'd expect, there's very little difference in the images captured on the larger Z1 and the smaller. Photos generally look good in most conditions, though Sony software does have a tendency to overprocess some images. Another thing to bear in mind is there's no official timetable for KitKat on either of these devices, which is worth remembering because very soon we're going to be seeing a lot of new devices running Android 4.4 out of the box. But Sony's done a good job with Android 4.3, and really there's nothing missing in terms of features or performance here. So that's the Sony Xperia Z1 and Z1 Compact. Unlike a lot of other mini smartphones, you're not really sacrificing much, if anything, on the smaller device. You get the same specs, same hardware, a smaller but better looking screen, and a great camera and really solid battery life. Check out our full review of the Z1 for more on this device, and we'll have a review of the Compact written up in the days ahead.